Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to your second session of BSBTWK201, which is a qualification you're working towards, one of the units, work effectively with others. I can see that you've all accessed your virtual classroom and the self-directed learning video, which I pre-recorded for you prior to this session. And thank you very much for populating the virtual classroom with all of your answers. That's great. So no concerns there. Everyone did that amazingly. So I'm Penelope Thornton. I'm your trainer. So I'm going to be sharing my screen so that we can start the slideshow today. Can everybody see the screen? Just a bit of housekeeping. Can I hear everybody? Can everybody just give me a hello?
Hi.
Shelley?
Hello. Hello.
And Cara, hello. Great. Okay, so we've got two-way conversations. Awesome. Okay, so the session is pre-recorded. So is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we just want to remind you of the protocols applicable to online learning. It's the same as a traditional classroom setting. So you do need to be respectful of, if you need to leave, that's absolutely fine. Just put, raise your hand or put a note in the chat. So that I just know where you're going if you need to leave or switch your screen off or anything. And please keep your microphones muted, because if there is background noise, then obviously that will interfere with everybody else's learning. So it's just being mindful of our protocols there. All right, so any questions, please either raise your hand with the raise hand icon on the screen, or you can put something in the virtual chat and I will answer your questions and respond to that. I have put your learner's guide for this session and a copy of the slides and the activities and resources needed to complete the activities embedded into this presentation on the virtual classroom in MS Teams, which you have all accessed now. Did anybody have any problems with that? Everybody accessed it okay? Yep. Okay, awesome. So just making sure you've all got a safe workstation space and that you're all ergonomically set up for a safe learning environment. There are some documents, web addresses, QR codes and YouTube videos embedded into the presentation. And what I will do, some of them are 10 minutes long, and there's a couple of 2-minute long ones. We're going to pause the recording so that you can watch those, and then we'll come back and we'll have a discussion on those. Okay. We are going to be doing the second session, the third session as well, back to back after this. So the same housekeeping rules will apply. And I will run through that when we get onto session 2. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my screen now with you. That you can get the. Okay. Okay, can everybody see that screen? Yep. Okay, so this is your BSB TWK201, Work Effectively with Others. So welcome to the unit. This contributes towards your Cert 4 in business, and I can see that you have all access to self-directed online. I've uploaded and completed the associated tasks and information sessions. Just a few visits here with the pre-enrollment information. I have got your learning needs questionnaires completed, and nobody identified any additional learning needs, which was great. And you've all completed the self-directed learning. We've gone through computer etiquette and classroom etiquette as well. So the assessment requirements for this unit, you'll need to be completed the following 3 assessments to a satisfactory level. So the way we mark you in these units is either satisfactory or non-satisfactory. We don't actually give grades. So, if you've passed, it's a satisfactory. So we will have an oral questioning case study and a classroom discussion. So the case study and classroom discussion form part of the formal assessment, which will come later after we've done these classroom studies, live studies and the self-directed studies. And the assessment will be completed after you've reviewed all of the materials as well. Are there any questions regarding the assessment? Okay, great. So we're going to talk about professional relationships. So this is working effectively with others. So what is a professional relationship? Can you put a few comments in the chat for me? Just type in what you think a professional relationship is. Awesome. And okay, Shelley, what was your professional relationship? Shelley, can you hear me? What was your professional relationship, if you could just tell us?
I just put working with colleagues in a team on a professional level.
Perfect. And Georgia?
I've just said relationships between colleagues, managers, and others in the office as well.
Perfect. And Cara?
Yes, similar to the other girls. I've got work colleagues. The relationship has boundaries and limits different to other relationships.
Perfect. Great answers. And I can see your answers there in the chat. That's great. Thanks, ladies. So when we're thinking about developing effective workplace relationships, there are a number of domains that we need to consider. So the following domains are what we're going to be covering: responsibilities and duties, organisational charts, organisational policies and procedures, workplace health and safety, positive workplace relationships, time and resource constraints. So I'm sure we're all familiar with all of those domains, and we've come across them in our professional working lives. So we're going to just be delving a little bit into those just to get a good understanding. Okay, so there are 5 key steps to building strong relationships and connections at work. We're going to pause the recording here just so that we can view the YouTube video, and then we will reconvene and we'll go on to the next slide. All right, so let's just pause the recording. Okay, welcome back, guys. So hope you all enjoyed that little video. That was great. So what type of relationships do you have in the workplace? Make a list of the relationships and just put a couple of them in the chat, please. So if you can just pop a couple of relationships in the chat. So examples would probably be co-workers, team members, work friends. You've got a manager, somebody you directly report to. You can have a mentor or a mentee. Workplace relationships, are they important? They're important for improving collaboration, productivity, employee morale, employee retention rates, transferring of skills and knowledge. Having a good, healthy workplace and relationship with people at work improves your health outcomes as well, and it improves creativity. It facilitates the intake of new team members, and it just helps you to settle in and enjoy the biggest part of your life, which is spending time at work with your colleagues. I have embedded a resource there, which is available on your virtual classroom. So if you can all have a look at that, it will just help you to underpin the knowledge so that you're prepared for your assessment, which is in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, so organisations as a process. Now we have a YouTube video here about organisations as a process. Now basically what this is talking about is that organisations can be thought about as their policies and procedures. So when we think about all of the policies and procedures we have in place for your organisation, which is WA Country Health, there are quite a lot of them relating to different domains within the actual organisation's framework. So when we think of an organisation, we can gauge the professional status of an organisation based on the policies and procedures that they have in place. So you would expect that a government organisation would be open, transparent, and have fair and equitable processes in place. And that could possibly be slightly different if you were to move to maybe private practice, where they would, make some of those policies more in line with their actual values, beliefs, and goals. And also with very small organisations whereby, they could maybe not even have any policies and procedures in place, and they might just make them up as they go along. So you can watch that video in your own time. That video has been uploaded onto the resources page, but for the purpose of this learning, we don't actually need to access it currently, so we'll come back to that. So to the difference between duties, tasks, and responsibilities. So a task is a prescribed action or set of actions, so that usually leads to a conclusion. So an example would be, say, taking out the rubbish or watering the garden, which would be relatable to daily habits. A duty is a task that is usually assigned by someone else. So a task is something that you do. A duty is something that someone else asks you to do. So that could be in day-to-day life. It could be, a mum telling her son or her child, to take the rubbish out. A responsibility is a moral accountability that goes with correct performance of someone's duties. So a responsibility means that you have, an organisation that you're accountable to, such as nurses were accountable to the Australian Health Practitioners Regulation Authority to ensure that we are maintaining our standards of practice. So I have embedded a resource for you on your virtual classroom, which is a website that you can access, which tells you the difference between tasks, duties, and responsibilities, and can someone explain respect to a student. So that resource is available for you. So when we're looking at work groups, a work group is a group of people who work together, either full or part-time. There are many different types of work groups, and people move within them from time to time. And in other workplaces, there could only be a single work group where everyone just kind of works together, say in a smaller organisation. And those people obviously would need to take on a wider range of tasks because, they would be workforce depleted. So the instructions and the functions of the workplace can be different depending on the size of the organisation. A work group could comprise of 2 people, you and a supervisor, or it could be made up of more people, such as, a work group, a supervisor, additional colleagues. You could have external parties that you engage as well. And everyone could have a different skill mix that they bring to the meeting or the work group to enhance the overall experience for the end user. So there can be a number of different work groups at your workplace, each with different responsibilities. Can you name in the chat some of the organisations some of the different work groups within your organisation? So would you, for example, collaborate with allied health? Would you collaborate with a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, with a physio, with a clinical nurse specialist, with a paediatrician, with, who would you collaborate with in your day-to-day? So it could be an external organisation as well. Okay, that's great. I can see you've all put some answers in there. That's awesome. So we've got school staff, we've got other colleagues, and we've got yes, Shelley. Shelley, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, hi Penny. Sorry, I've just got to look at something at the moment for 2 minutes and then I'll come back in.
No
It's a
problem.
bit of
Thanks
an
for letting me know.
emergency.
Would you like us to wait for you, Shelley?
No, that's fine if you can continue, and I can
That's
catch up
okay.
with you if I miss anything.
That's fine. So the recording will be uploaded and shared with you anyway, so you can actually go over it and look at anything that you missed. Okay. Thank you, Shelley. All right. So we're going to now look at different workplace relationships and the structure. So organisations have to be planned really carefully and worked out and processes applied accordingly. Now, processes involve determining who's in charge, who needs to disseminate information, and who needs to actually do the work. So I think we're all very well versed on that. Now, effective workplace relationships. So just have a discussion. Well, we can have a three-way discussion because we were going to break up into pairs. Shelley's just had to duck out for a moment. So in the chat, who are your reporting lines? Using your organisational chart and your structure that you've made previously from the virtual learning classroom, show who has key tasks for jobs and key responsibilities for jobs in your organisation. So start with yourselves. So your job description and what are your responsibilities? So if you're a registered nurse, what are your responsibilities? Who are you? Who do you have to report to? Okay, I can see that. Yep, you report to your line manager, and you also have to be accountable to your class principal. Your school principals as well. And yeah, and you have to abide by your policies and procedures of the organisation. Awesome. So developing effective workplace relationships. What are the key organisational policies and procedures that need to be followed in a workplace? So let's just all unmute ourselves and just have a little discussion about that. Okay, Cara, what are some of the policies that you need to abide by in your workplace?
Obviously, the policies for being respectful towards our colleagues and that sort of thing, and then also the more task-orientated policies and procedures in terms of how one is performing specific tasks on any given day.
Yeah, perfect. And Georgia, what are some of the, if you could give some different perspectives, what are some of the policies that you need to abide by?
Yeah, I was thinking more task policies such as the school entry health assessment policy, community nursing manual policies, that side of things.
Yep, and we've also got, I think in some organisations we have safe working policies, and we have policies in relation to work health and safety and how we conduct ourselves and who's responsible for work health and safety. Everybody is, right? Great. Okay. So when we are looking at the policies, so that's some that we've just mentioned there. So, WHS, legislative requirements, codes of practice. We've also got things like manual handling. We have safe handling of infectious goods and materials. And all of the safe working practices can be found on the resource that I've embedded into your virtual classroom for Safe Work Australia. There is also some QR codes in your virtual classroom, which I'm sure you've all had a look at, because I can see that you've all accessed the different pages there. So do go and refresh yourself before you have your assessment day. All right, so now when we're talking about working effectively in groups, what are some of the things that we need to be mindful of when we're working with other people? So, Georgia, what would you need to be mindful of when working with colleagues?
I think just be open to everyone, different ideas, no talking over each other, that sort of thing. And it does help if there kind of is someone facilitating a discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, what about Cara, if I was to be a bit more specific, and what about your conduct or your, you know, the way you handle attending meetings, group meetings?
So being mindful of paying attention to whoever's speaking at the time, not speaking over the top of one another, being flexible and open to people's different ideas, you know, contributing to the conversation and not just kind of being there as a body.
Yeah, so you need to develop relationships with lots of different people in the workplace, right? So there may be people in your workplace that are from outside the organisation. And regardless of who you're dealing with, you should make sure that your interactions are positive, productive, they build good working relationships, and you know they ensure that you're building trust, reliability, and flexibility. So, you know, participating in meetings, communicating clearly, and cooperating as part of a work group. This can ensure that you promote good working relationships and that, you know, people feel like they're valued and they're heard. Well done. All right, so when we are looking at time constraints and resource constraints, what things do you think could come in the way of, you know, or limit start and end times for completing projects? So, you know, if you're on a project or a working group, then what could be some of the things that you know, hinder you? So when we're talking about time constraints, we're looking at a time constraint being defined as a limitation imposed by you or someone else. And, you know, a time constraint would be an inability to reach a goal because of a shortage of time. A resource constraint is something that stops you from doing your job because of equipment and supplies. And, you know, you have priorities set, but you're unable to achieve them because of, you know, resourcing such as accessibility, flexibility, lack of you know, equipment that you need. Have you come across this in your workplace at all, any of you?
I can think of an example in terms of equipment. Occasionally we have got a limited number, or not occasionally, we have got a limited number of tympanometers, and so when we're attending site and there's a lot of us going out to different schools, there's often not enough equipment to achieve the assessments that we are required to perform on a given day, which means that we then have to attend a school again on a different day when we can get access to the equipment, which of course then extends the amount of time it takes to complete the task. Yeah,
that can be really challenging, can't it, Cara? Thank you for that. Okay, so this next slide and the slide after it are some scenarios. So we've got scenario 1, which is Trudy. So what I'd like you to do after this session, I'd like you to access the virtual classroom. So Trudy's scenario has been uploaded into the virtual classroom, and I would like you to just give a couple of answers as to how you feel Trudy could problem solve her scenario. So she's an account manager, supervisor booked her in advance for a bookkeeping course for 3 days next month. Trudy worries about going on the course because she has got some prior commitments which she hasn't communicated very effectively with her supervisor. So she's got a major deal to close the client. She needs to finish a project by the end of the month, and she needs to complete her regular end of month reporting requirements. So if you could go onto the virtual classroom after the session and put your answers in there, that would be great. Then we've got scenario 2, which is Sandy. So Sandy, again, is in a bit of a predicament. She works for a small charity, a small office environment. There is no money available, and there's some badly needed replacement office furniture and faulty equipment. The workers, including Sandy, have become used to making do and not usually are used to asking for items to be purchased. What can Sandy do? And I'd like you also to consider your work health and safety obligations in relation to this. Okay, so if you could just all, for this next activity, put an emoji into the chat for me. So what do you think people mean when they say, if you want something done, get a busy person to do it? What do we think of this? So put an emoji as to what you think of this statement. If you want something done, get a busy person to do it. Is that a positive team building statement, or is it a statement that you just think, not happy about that? That's not very fair and equitable. I can see you laughing, Cara. Yeah. All right. So one of your emojis will be just on the top of your screen there. Great. Awesome. And then the second one is, how could time and resource constraints lead to a workplace with lower morale and higher rates of injury or illness? So I think what I would put in there would be a ticking time clock for my emoji. Yep, great. Awesome. Okay, thank you. So the final part, with the last couple of slides now, constructive feedback is a type of feedback that is aimed at achieving a positive outcome. So by providing someone with advice or suggestions that are useful for their work, we need to give feedback that, sometimes we need to give bad feedback, but we need to always ensure in a professional environment that the feedback is given constructively so that it can give people the opportunity to improve. There is a resource here that you can access, and I would like you to complete the quiz, which is in the resources folder on the virtual classroom, called Constructive Criticism Questions Quiz. The quiz is already in for you to access and complete, and you have got your own sections within the virtual classroom. And I can see you're all laughing at that with your emojis. That's great. Thanks, guys. Has anyone got any issues with accessing the virtual classroom and quizzes? Do you know where to locate those? Yep, just a nod of the head if you do. Yep, awesome. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate some of your work environments are quite busy behind you there, so thank you for keeping yourselves muted. Okay, so when we're looking at constructive and destructive feedback, so the video will pause and we'll allow for the next slide to be populated with your answers. So we'll pause the video here for a couple of minutes, and we're going to look at constructive and destructive criticism. And these are all jumbled up on the screen, as you can see. They're not under the right heading. So critics tend to be ignored doesn't really fit with constructive feedback, does it? So what we're going to do is pause the video. We're going to have a quick brief discussion about where they should go, and we're going to repopulate the next slide with the domains of constructive and destructive criticism with your correct answers. Okay, so we're just going to pause the recording here just for 2 minutes. Okay, hello everyone. So from our discussion, I can see that we have repopulated the boxes. So critics, constructive and destructive. People don't offer suggestions or tips. Critics are usually experts. Focus on the creator of the work, not the creation. Yeah, so have we got any questions about the boxes that we populated there? Did anyone have any things they were unsure of? Georgia, were you all good with that? Yep, awesome. Shelley, yeah, lovely. Thumbs up from you guys there, some emojis. Awesome, thank you guys. Okay, so well done. We've now completed topic 1. So we can have a reflection and discuss, and you can put some comments in your virtual classroom about what you found interesting about this topic. And remember, feedback should only be given when it's geared positively, or, you know, when it has a positive spin or end to it. All right. And think about some of the best ways to do that. Okay. So I'm just going to stop recording now.